Hi there, I'm Jen Cassetta, your Chief Badassery Officer. If you're feeling drained, hesitant, stuck in self-doubt, or you just have a case of the vlogs, the Art of Badassery podcast is here to help you unleash your mojo once and for all. We'll provide you with tips, techniques, and real-life examples of how you can kick ass in all areas of your life. You'll learn how to flex your mental muscles, rise above fears, and turn setbacks into superpowers. So let's enter the dojo and let's get to work. Welcome everyone to the Art of Badassery podcast. I'm Jen Cassetta, your Chief Badassery Officer and host. And today I have a very special guest for you. Her name is Shanna Adamic. That's Shanna like Donna. Just so you don't get confused like I did. I got a lesson before we got on just to make sure that I got it correct. Was that right, Shanna?
Yes, that is absolutely right. Absolutely right. Or there's an invisible W in my first name, but yeah.
There we go. Invisible W. Thank you, Shanna. Okay, so Shanna Adamic is an executive director of Oracle Health Foundation, director of social impact, and a correspondent for Oracle Health. With over 20 years of experience in corporate leadership, philanthropy, and community impact, Shanna is known for her audacious optimism. Welcome to the show, Shanna. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so great. It's great to sit here with you because I think that you are one of the most amazing people. And I know that you know this, but I actually saw you on LinkedIn and started following you and then connect with you because I just felt drawn to your message and also like a fellow badass. So I just wanted to continue to kind of hear more from you and learn from you. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you just gave me chills. That is my favorite thing about social media is connecting with like-minded people on a mission. Black belts in badassery, as I like to call them. So yes, Shanna reached out to me over LinkedIn, which I think is super cool. I'm always open to connecting with, like I said, like-minded, awesome women and badasses and people in general, not just women. Guys, you're welcome too. Right?
Open.
But I have some fun facts about you as well. Not only is she a badass in the corporate field, but her background started as an NFL cheerleader. Can you tell us a little bit more about that before we dig into the other stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, an NFL cheerleader for, I know that many people may not agree with me, but I'm just going to say it for what I think is the best team in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
And yes, and I cheered for the Chiefs from 2003 to 2011. I was on the sideline for the Chiefs as an athlete, and it was just one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And, just forming the bond with the women I was on the field with and just having that experience. I think our current coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, he actually has a quote, Andy Reid, he always says, you come in basically as an individual and you leave as a family. And that's exactly what it feels like. And I learned so much during that time and had so much personal growth, in the areas of resilience, perseverance, just hard work. And so I wear that crown with pride from being an NFL cheerleader. And so whenever I see those men and women on the field who are dancing on the sidelines, I always point out that they are badass athletes because they are, and they pour their heart and soul into that, and also just incredible people behind the uniform.
Amazing. And I don't think many people know this about me, but I was a high school cheerleader for all 4 years. I absolutely loved it. And you're right. I mean, we had to do conditioning. We were, working out. We were working hard. It's not just about the, cheering other people on, which obviously is part of the role, but it's really a sport of its own. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, yes, you become cheerleaders of each other and, you are cheerleaders for the team, but it really is a sport within sports. And that's what's so incredible about it. And so there's not a moment that goes by that I don't stop and watch a cheerleader of any sport when I'm there and just appreciate what they've done to get there. In fact, I helped out with the Kansas City Chiefs cheerleader auditions just a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and
fun.
I'm in tears watching these candidates audition and think, oh my gosh, these are the best of the best that are coming to this audition and doing this. And then I also had this thought, I was like, would I have made this team if I tried out? Because the talent is so good. I mean, it's that good. And it makes me proud to be like, yes, I was an NFL cheerleader. Yes, I dance exactly like they do.
Yes, you do. And two other points, I definitely don't want to spend a lot of time on this first one, but the second one, let's do that real quick. So you just shared that you have a new member of your family. Can you just, and name?
Yes, hold on. She's right here. Can I pick her up and show you?
Yes, of course.
Okay, hold on. Let me just grab her. She's all wound up in my computer cords, but this is my little sleepy puppy.
Oh gosh.
Oh. And her name is Taylor Swift.
There we go.
Yes. Which is very funny. My kids named her and it stuck. So now it's Tay, Swifty, whatever you want to call. But she is just she's a little bundle of love.
Love. Okay. And then the first thing was I just noticed on social media that one of the Kansas City Chief players gave a commencement speech at some college somewhere and was basically telling women in the audience that they shouldn't strive for promotions and corporate jobs and all of this, and really that their happiness is only going to be found in being a wife and a mother. Do we know this person, and what can we do about this?
Yeah, no, I don't know the person personally. And I also know that anytime that you're in the uniform, whether this is a cheerleading uniform or a football uniform, you're representing an entire brand that is not representative of the brand and of how that feeling is not a feeling that is widely thought of and agreed upon. And so I think it's unfortunate that he took that approach. And there's a party that wants to assume like, oh man, I hope somewhere you were just misunderstood and that's not actually what you meant. And so that's a hope in that realm. But it's also I hope that no woman in the audience walked away from that thinking that they feel less of themselves walking away from that. That's not something that I would ever hope for anyone who heard that. So unfortunate, and something I would, it's actually funny. I actually had this conversation with some members of the team this last week, is that, you think about what comes out of your mouth when you're representing an organization, when you're representing yourself, and truly how you're representing, inclusion in a diverse, front, being able to bring people together. And it's just like things that we heard in that were just unfortunate. So
you're way more poised than I am, because the things that were coming out of my mouth when I was listening to it were not okay for my brand, right? My podcast.
We'll get on the phone afterwards and I'll tell you.
Okay. All right. Enough about that. Well, it's actually a perfect segue, because you have such an amazing corporate career. Can you just remind myself and other folks, what does Oracle actually do?
Yeah.
Software?
Oracle is behind. I always tell people that I guarantee no matter what store you walk into, if you looked at whether it be, how you're handing your card over and you're checking out, or any kind of system that there is, it's probably going to have an Oracle logo on it. Oracle is everywhere, and it's behind software. They are leading this future in the power of AI in several industries, including healthcare. And that is really the field where I have been. I started with a company that was acquired by Oracle, and the largest healthcare IT acquisition ever. And I know, and going into the future of healthcare with the, what we already had, we digitized healthcare and the work that we were doing. And then now with the power of Oracle, it's being powered by this amazing software behind it and this power of AI. And so I think, the future looks bright in healthcare, and I'm so excited that we're leading the path in that. So Oracle does a lot, and my focus is on healthcare primarily.
Good. And just anytime someone has something positive to say about the future, I'm all in because there's so much negative things said and thought about, but I just want to hear the good stuff from you. So, so you're the executive director of the Health Foundation, the Oracle
Yeah.
Health Foundation, which I want to hear about. And this kind of also brings me back to why I invite guests onto this podcast. As you all know, they're black belts in badassery. And what does that mean to me? Well, it means that you have gone through challenges, most likely hard, difficult challenges, and you have now used that grit, that inner strength, that grace, all of it to help others, to take a stand for others in ways, you know, whatever ways there are, right?
Yeah.
So many ways. So that's what I want everyone to share, and I want to learn too, is your story of how you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, my story, if I go back all the way, there's been a thread that I pulled through, which, you know, I know that we're going to touch on a couple different ways, but that's optimism. And, you know, even when you talk about hope in the future, it's like, that's how I speak. It's all about being able to frame that, live that, choose that, and move forward in that optimistic way. And that's a thread through my life, and it has been something that I have learned, I've created, I've refined, I have pulled through, I have had to reclaim in my own health journey and truly live that out. And I think that, you know, what's interesting about my career is that I've done this serendipitous dance with healthcare for the last couple decades of my life. I have learned to use my voice to advocate for others, to raise funds, to make sure that we're removing barriers to healthcare for children worldwide, and supporting my team to help thousands of children around the world. And I never, ever thought that I would experience a healthcare journey as personal as I did.
Wow.
You know, working for a company where, you know, I learned early on that healthcare is too personal to stay the same. And then I found out that it really is too personal to stay the same. As I ended my cheerleading career in 2011, which is really interesting, when I did stop being a cheerleader, I think I was 31, and I got the fun nickname that a lot of just tenured cheerleaders get, and that's as a fossil. And so I was
fossil?
a fossil, and it's a joke with us on the team. And so there was this moment where I was, you know, the girl next to me who was 18, she could kick to her face on cue, and I was like, I need 30 minutes to stretch out my whole body. This is something about this. So I retired in 2011, and as I retired, I started to notice that I was losing my hearing. That last year I was cheering on my right side. And when I went to the doctor, after running some tests, their response was, you are losing a little bit of hearing, and it's probably due to cheering in the loudest stadium in the NFL. And that felt great until the moment it didn't. And over the next 6 years,
again, third time.
Yeah, over the next 6 years, 2011, 2017, I saw my primary care physician, a specialist, or went to the emergency room 109 times. And
Wait. Can you repeat that? How many times?
109 times
in
6 years. 6 years.
Wow.
And so, and if you think about in a woman who is in her 30s, on average, in the US, is going to go to the doctor 4 times a year. I was going
even a lot.
Yeah, I was going a substantial amount, and I was going back with growing symptoms. The symptoms that started with hearing loss, that went into headaches, sinus infections, reoccurring earaches, dizziness, sight problems, and then eventually problems with my speech. And every single time that I went to the doctor, I was treated with different things. I was diagnosed with Meniere's disease, benign positional vertigo, treated for the common cold, anything they could throw a Z-Pack at, they would. I was treated for dehydration more times than I can count, and also given lifestyle advice where it was literally pointing back to the fact that I was a woman, I had periods, I was breastfeeding. And I'll never forget someone actually, a physician actually telling me, you're probably just a tired, overworked mom.
Oh,
and
wow.
Right. And so it was just a constant searching.
And in this time, you're having babies.
And this time I'm having 2 kids.
Wow.
And I started to have intense vertigo with the second one. And still it was probably the epidural. It was probably this. It was probably, and I was like, no, something is wrong with my body. Like somebody listen to me. And then finally, after seeing a celebrity interview with Maria Menounos and Savannah Guthrie, she explained her brain tumor. I called my primary care physician again, asked him to get me into a specialist. And I walked into that specialist office, my 110th appointment. And I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I think I have a brain tumor. And I went through my whole health. And he said, I don't think you're crazy. I think you're looking for answers. And I think my job is to find them. And
thank God.
He sent me for an MRI, and 20 minutes after my MRI, he called me and he said, Shanna, something's there and it's big. He told me that it was a 4.5 centimeter, which is the size of a golf ball brain tumor, compressing my brainstem. And he said, it's rare, it's benign, which was great, but it's life-threatening because of the pressure it was applying to my brainstem. And he gave me 1 year to live, and without the needed surgery and the right care plan. And so that was a spiraling moment for me. It's like when you think about what happens when you have that second that changes the before that you knew, and then all of a sudden there becomes an after that is completely different. It's like this fight, flight, or freeze. It's that feeling of the ultimate fear. And the one thing I've always shared with people is that I learned so quickly that you can't run away from disease or diagnosis. And that's really where, in that journey, I had to find and claim back my optimism and realize that it's not a feeling, it's a choice. And it is made in the very darkest moment of your lives. And so, and that's really kind of, from that moment of finding out that I had that tumor, Jennifer, I went back to, I got the care plan. It didn't have a lot of hope. And I knew I needed to exercise my right as a patient and get a second opinion. And I took to social media and got that second opinion within hours, connection to that second opinion, because it's virtually impossible for people to get second opinions on their own without that referral and help. And I had a connection to a surgeon in Chicago, and I got up there in 4 hours with all my medical history, sat in front of doctors, and the doctors said, hey, this is going to be a big surgery with a big outcome. And I said, let's go for it. I'm going to leave my family behind. They knew I needed to get the care. That's scary to do, to leave everything and have to go away for weeks, and especially knowing I'm going to have brain surgery. So it's a hefty story. And I think, the different pieces wrapped into it, from getting that care to going through, in January 2018, a 13-hour translabyrinth craniotomy, losing my hearing, and
what does that mean technically?
A translabyrinth craniotomy?
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked. Thank you. They went on, what that means is they went in on 2 points of my head, 2 sides. So right here and right here, basically I have a scar that goes all the way down my neck, and this side of my head is covered with a titanium. And they went in that way to have the best chance at removing the entire tumor, and they got it all.
Wow.
And yeah, so
we have one thing in common. We both have titanium in our bodies.
Do you? Where's your titanium?
In my hip. I got a new hip.
Well, I mean, okay, can I ask you this question? When you go through, because somebody asked me, they're like, in the metal detectors, does it go off? And I go, no,
Nope.
It doesn't.
Nope.
And okay. And somebody else said it did on theirs, and I was like, does it though? Because titanium is actually a different property than metal, so it doesn't. Okay.
No. The first time I went through the TSA, I was like, oh, excuse me, I have a metal hip, and they were like, oh, then you have to go on that long line over there. So from that point on, I was like, oh, I'm never going to open my mouth again. And I just started going through the metal detector every time, and it never went off. So I was like, okay, I learned my lesson.
I know. know. And I'm like, well, maybe they see it. I don't know. I've always wanted to ask. I'm like, do you see that thing in my head? Then they're like, flag. I'm going to flag this person. It's like, she gets to go get checked again.
Right. So hot tip
But
out there for all of you people that may need titanium in your body one day. Thank you for sharing that, Shauna.
yeah.
That I didn't want to keep interrupting you, but I had chills a fourth and a fifth time as well. This is an incredible story. So I didn't realize you were already working in healthcare at Oracle when this
Yes.
all happened.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
I had, when I went into surgery, I was about 15 years into my career at leading efforts in the foundation, which at that time was Cerner Charitable Foundation, First Hand Foundation, and went to a different name as we moved into Oracle. But it was so interesting that, for years I was working with this company, digitizing healthcare to improve the experience for the patient. And then I was also advocating for these kids through fundraising in the foundation to get them the help they needed, and then having to experience that myself. When I tell my story, I talk about in a frame that, when I got that diagnosis, one thing that I learned was that my tumor had been growing. It was slow growing, and it had been growing for 8 years, which meant during that 6 years, and I visited the doctor 109 times, it could have been caught every single time that I went if I would have had the appropriate scan. And that I did have a head scan. And the head scan that I had, that was about a year and a half prior to that, the person that read that scan didn't see the severe misalignment of my brainstem. And so that that was a human error. And so it's complicated because there's a lot of movement that we're making to better healthcare, and healthcare needs to be better on so many different levels. And so that's actually where I feel so passionate about now, this work we're doing and combining the efforts that I've been part of for so many years. And now with the power of Oracle, is because it's so well-rounded. It's fixing it at all levels that I truly believe will change it for the patients and patients and physicians in the future. And so I think that's where I pour my heart and soul in, because I do not want anyone else to experience years of unanswered questions. And then, but one thing I also say is that when I get to my story where I find that doctor in Chicago and I get to that doctor in 4 days, I mean, that's a clear and cut story of health equity. I had resources. I was able to get on a plane, get a sitter, like have my kids taken care of. That's the care everyone should have, everyone. And so I can't imagine if I wouldn't have had those resources at my fingertips, where I would have.
It's amazing how these experiences show us our privilege in a way, and
Absolutely.
that in those prior years, your privilege didn't even really matter. It didn't get you the diagnosis any sooner, I think. Quick share, your story just completely brought me back to my father's death, with which I haven't really shared these details on the podcast yet, but essentially for years he started having pain, but really in that last year of his life, the pain was getting so intense in his shoulder. And he would get the MRIs and and all the doctors would just say, oh, you have a torn, rotator cuff. You're so fit, stop doing pull-ups, stop working out, stop punching, stop doing martial arts. And, that's it. But the pain got worse and worse and like debilitating. So now he's like had to take pain meds, and he didn't like them. And anyway, it got to the point where finally it was so bad, he just went to the emergency room, was sent home once, had to go back. And that's when my sister, again, so the privilege of having one of your daughters a doctor, not me, but my sister, call and say, give the man a CT scan. And that's when they found a tumor growing up his entire spine, and that was causing the shoulder pain, right? So I hate this.
Oh my gosh, that breaks my heart, because that's where there's one side of this where I absolutely, physicians have a lot on their hands. Anyone in the office, nurses have a lot on their hands, and there's a high demand in of things seeking their attention, from the patients to the technology, everything. Their calendars are just too full. And it's also, patients are desperate to be heard, to be seen, to be valued. And that is in incredible example. And I'm sorry, because that's infuriating. It should have been caught sooner.
Of course. And by the time it was, unfortunately, it was too late. Like, so from the time that he got that actual diagnosis, I believe it was only 7 days until he died from the complications of the surgery. So,
Oh my gosh.
but it is just another, hey, reminder for everyone listening, right? You almost saved your own life because of Maria Menounos's interview, right?
Yeah.
By the way, does she know about your story?
She does. I reached out to her right afterwards, and I told her, or, I reached out to her publicist, and I sent a message and asked her to share. Maria ended up connecting with me, and actually she and her husband, Kevin, ended up calling several times, Jeff and I, and prepping us for what surgery was going to be like. Kevin talked to Jeff and said, like, made jokes on like, hey, man, she's not gonna, you know what, she's gonna have a problem pooping for like the next like 2 weeks after surgery. And like things like that, where it's like, so, I mean, if things wouldn't know otherwise, which I love about them. She gave me a heads up on, thoughts around like acupuncture and reflexology and things that I really, swear by now, but it was incredible. And then actually I told her that going into the surgery, I was told by doctors, hey, there's not a lot that you can control here. Really, we're hoping for the best, and we're going to do our part, and the recovery is going to be hard. The recovery the recovery will be hard, but you can help it by being in the best possible shape you can be in by the time you get to surgery, which I thought was interesting. So we transitioned our life at home. We ate so healthy. I ran every day. On my playlist was like was every single version of "This Is My Fight Song" by Rachel Platten. And I told Maria that. And so on the day of my surgery, my care team's like crowded around me. We're talking, we're laughing. Jeff is I'm telling him to whisper in my ear where I'm going to lose my hearing. And then he goes, hey, I have something to show you. And he pulled out his phone, and Maria was with Rachel, and Rachel sent me a message.
My God. The singer?
Yes. And she told me, she just said, hey, she was filled with so much hope for what this was going to do. And this was, it was going to bring me healing and all of this. And so it just felt like Maria didn't have to do that. But I think it's when you go through something like this, you realize that it's, you know the feeling. And so since then, I have actually felt that it's a personal calling, that whenever anyone reaches out to me, which I've had a ton, from different areas, say, hey, I've been diagnosed with this tumor. I saw your video. Your video brings so much hope. And I just am so scared. I take time and I connect with them, whether that's on Instagram DM, on LinkedIn, some personal phone calls, because it's just taking time to say, hey, there's life on the other side of surgery. Like you're going to get there. And so that taught me that. So thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria. We love you. I love that story. That is part of being a black belt in badassery. I make sure I do it with everyone that reaches out for my hip surgery, because I had so many angels along the way helping me. Again, not as severe as what you were going
through.
for.
No, it still is. Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm always like, sure, I'll take the call. Sure, I'll answer your DM. I want to support others. The give back, right? So that's what this is all about. So, which brings us kind of full circle. Can you just share now about, well, two things. I want to hear how at the foundation, like how you're taking a stand for other people in healthcare. I know you mentioned children. And then also just, can you leave us with some tips for how to be optimistic, how to be audaciously optimistic in the face of complete, fear and challenge and overwhelm?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Going back to the first part of the question, now, my path in healthcare feels like that. It's, I'm going to use the word personal again. It just feels so personal. I've experienced it as someone who's lost people. I've experienced personally, and I've helped people along the way get it. And so, now as an advocate for getting access to healthcare and bettering our healthcare system, my platform is really that, to share my personal story, but then also to share the good that we are doing, that we're bringing through the technology that we are creating, and what we have to bring and bridge in the future to create this better experience for our patients, our physicians, in a way that brings early diagnosis, treatment, research, and everything together. So it's exciting, and I get really passionate about it because when you have experienced it at all levels, which I would say 10 out of 10 people probably have, like if you haven't been a patient, you will be. And if you haven't seen a patient, you will see one. And so I think it's like when you can see it like that this is something that affects everyone. What excites me too is that, the conversation of AI, I know can be terrifying, but in healthcare, it's really this point where I actually do use the phrase again, optimistic, because I'm optimistic it's going to put the human back in healthcare to help physicians connect more with the patients and let the power of AI help with the early diagnosis, the reading the scans, the making sure that they're getting the scans, all of that to help power that forward, to help us to bring more intelligent care. That's exciting. So, and then I think on Audacious Optimism, this thread that's been through my life, the way that I live, the way that I lead, all of these things, I believe that Audacious Optimism is a choice, it's a daily practice, and it's a strategy. And I intentionally say it's a choice, and I've said it I think 3 times now, because a lot of people associate it with being happy or positive, and those are feelings. And Jennifer, just as well as I do, you and I can't sit here and wait for optimism to hit us. Like, we're not just going to wait to feel optimistic. You have to make that choice to do it. And to do that, you have to be able to trust yourself, trust your gut, listen to your voice, embrace the unknown in times of fear, which can evoke fear, and and also can evoke excitement, and then be able to ignite the power of your I will. There's parts of my journey when I went into recovery after brain surgery where I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize the girl I saw. I saw a paralyzed face. I couldn't talk. I couldn't close my eye. And I remember sinking to my lowest level and deciding in that moment, it took one decision to grab a pen, to grab a paper, and write down my I wills. And I taped them on my mirror, and it said, I will close my eye completely. I will smile with all my teeth. I will chew with both sides of my mouth. I will be a better version of me. And I didn't believe it when I read it until I did. And so I kept speaking, I will. And quite literally, my doctors along the way said that my nerve rejuvenation was pretty miraculous. And I have to believe that power to speak intention and to actually envision my future as something different than that mirror was telling me was a powerful moment for myself.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm such a huge believer of affirmations. They're in my keynotes, they're in my workshops, they're in my group coaching, they're with my one-to-one coaching. I practice them every single morning and I write them down. So after my meditation, where I do also visualization of a future version of myself, then I sit with pen and paper, just like you said, and I start to write. And I write in an affirmative way. I write an entire page every single morning. Sometimes it's affirmation-like, but sometimes it's just descriptive. Sometimes it's just talking to myself. Sometimes it winds up flowing into something I might publish one day, right? It's just pen to paper is so, first of all, voice, right? Voice in your head, voice in the world, and then pen to paper, 3 very, very powerful strategies, like you said.
Yep.
In the healing process and keeping optimistic. And with that, I just want to say, because I'm with you on this optimism train, but what do you say to people out there that are like, oh, this is just toxic positivity, blah, blah, blah. Why can't we just feel our miserable feelings all the time?
Yeah, no, I love that, because that's exactly why I talk about it as a choice, because everyone has a nature, like everyone has this natural way they're just going to be. And not everyone is going to get out of bed and see sunshines and rainbows. And then other people are going to get out of bed and see sunshines and rainbows. And those of us who don't always see those are going to be annoyed by that. But I think that that's what's so great about optimism when you frame it as a choice. It's because any single person can choose optimism. Optimism does not mean that you have to have a feeling, pep in your step, a smile on your face. It truly just means bold hope in the future. And
bold hope in the future. I love that. It resonates with me. And I hope it resonates with lots of you out there. Hope. The thing that makes me the saddest is when I hear like studies of young girls right now. The CDC came out with a study where I think it was about 3/5 of young girls, so like teenage girls, feel extreme sadness and hopelessness
Oh, yeah.
often. Hopelessness at such a young age, it just makes me so, so sad. So the biggest takeaway I'm taking away from this is that optimism is a choice. And like when you choose, it's still going to be tough, right? It's not just you choose it and that's it. You're optimistic 100% of the time, right? Doubt and all these things, fear is still going to creep in, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even when you're optimistic, if you can just tune into the fact that that's a choice, I mean, you're still going to have worry. I mean, even today, I felt like I had imposter syndrome on something I was a part of. And it's like, those things are going to come in, but when you're able to actually hone in on the ability to choose optimism, that kind of starts to just kind of bring that little I call it like an ember, a tiny ember of hope, of light, of whatever it is, to the surface, so that you can kind of grab onto that and move forward, because you're going to have those. You can't just go through life without those moments.
Yeah.
No one can.
Right. I love that. An ember. So keep that ember lit no matter what.
Yes.
Even when the clouds come, right? As long as there's a little ember, and you can do that by, like you said, writing I will statements. I like I am statements, by speaking to yourself in a positive way. Are there any other just easy techniques or strategies that you use on a daily basis?
Oh, absolutely. I have these little daily tactics that I use, that it's like, to help just, and it kind of sounds cheesy, but I think you know this as well as I do, that optimism, when I talk about it being in practice, is just like going to the gym, eating healthy, anything. When you have to put it in practice on a daily basis for to be able to tap into it in those darkest moments or in those hardest moments. And so on a daily basis, the things that I do that are really just set in my routine are, from the early morning. The first thing I do when I get up, and I tell people this all the time, and a lot of it has to do with the smile. The smile has always been something that I've heard is an outward form of optimism, and I love that. Like, it's taking form. But as I smile at myself in the mirror, and I tell people, I'm like, you know what? Go smile at your damn self. Okay, it sounds cheesy, but when you smile at yourself, when you smile at someone else, you actually your brain has to work not to smile back. So when you're smiling at yourself, you're already like releasing all of that great serotonin that you need in your body. You're feeling some sort of joy, and you'll probably laugh. And that is literally how I start every day. And I feel so cheesy and I look like a hot mess waking up and looking in the mirror. And I'm like, okay, but this is going to be a good day. And then, throughout the day, I have breathing techniques. I do block breathing sometimes, where it's just, the 4 count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out, 4 count hold, and do it again. And when I do that, I also think of these things. It's kind of something I repeat to myself, where I think of things like, what's bringing me fear or worry in that moment, and I'm breathing it in, I'm holding it, and then I'm pushing it out, and I'm covering it with confidence. And those are little points that I do like throughout the day, like to help like bring that calmness to my own body. And then I do write down my wills on a daily basis. I wills, and I say those, whether it's small little, I will show up to that meeting on time. Like, I will make that call today. Or they're bigger things, such as, and those bigger things I write down actually on Post-it notes, like, I will get my book published, and
Yes.
I am. And so I'm about to strip this one off.
Congratulations on that. And just to notice they're not I'll try, it's I will. So with that said, share the title of your book, where we can find it, and then I'm going to jump into my rapid fire questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. Really fast, I got to tell you, I want to get rid of the words I should, I could, I would, because when you say those, you probably won't. So you got to say I will. Exactly. And the name of my book is Audacious Optimism, big surprise. And it goes on pre-sale in June, and then I'll hit the bookshelves in December. And so perfect for the holidays. But you can find that through just connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, and I'm going to launch that site once it goes up for pre-sale. And so I'm so excited. So Audacious Optimism.
Can't wait to get my copy. Okay. 4 rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
What was your favorite food from childhood?
Oh gosh. Okay. My favorite food from childhood, I'm probably going to have to go with mayonnaise sandwiches. Like, I would, yeah, I know, straight mayonnaise and white bread. That was my favorite food.
I try not to judge, but it just is written all over my face. Okay. If you could have a drink with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be and what would be your drink?
If I could have a drink with anyone, I think I actually would have a drink with Maria Menounos. And she and I have never met in person. And I think our drink would have to be my favorite, which is a slightly dirty martini.
Awesome. And I just have a feeling that's going to happen. So
Yeah.
let's put it on your I wills.
will.
What's your favorite self-help or personal growth book?
My favorite self-help or personal, let me see if it's actually back here. Oh, okay. There's I love Atomic Habit. Atomic Habit is one of my very favorites, but I have to bring this one out, and I have two to show, but I'm going to bring this one first. And this is When We'll Move a Day.
Yes.
And
I know Shanna.
And the author is Shanna. And
I know her.
She spells her name just like I do.
Yeah.
And she is the one who actually said Shanna like Donna. And I'm like, I'm going to forever use that. And then
I have that book, and it's right in my room, and I know her from a networking group. So amazing. Shout out to the other Shanna like Donna. And last but
of course, The Art of Badassery. So yes, of course.
Thanks for throwing that in. And then last but not least, what's your favorite hype song? I think you already told us.
Oh, you know what? I would say have back then the fight song, but now I'm going to say I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Let's bring it back to Taylor Swift. So yeah, that's my favorite hype song.
Okay, amazing. You heard it here first, folks. Shanna, thank you so much for sharing your audacious optimism with me, with everyone listening. And last but not least, I know you said where we can find the book, but how do we connect with you, on social, etc.?
LinkedIn, Shanna Adamic, Instagram, Shanna Adamic, and on TikTok. And I will also, when that goes on pre-sale, I'll just put out the link on all of those channels. But I would love to connect, and I love to engage. Thank you so much, Jennifer. You are a light in this world, and thank you for doing this and all that you bring.
Thank you. You made me cry. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure that you reach out to us over Instagram. I'm at Jen Cassetta. Let us know what you think of this episode. If you have any questions, comments, and make sure you subscribe and leave a review for this podcast if it serves you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.